Hello there! This is a review for the Mystic City corset number 19. Here is the front, the side, the back, and the other side. Before I get into the review, I just want to point out a couple things. The first one is that the top is gaping away from the body a little bit. And the second is that there are deep wrinkling grooves on the front hip. Here is a close-up of the grooves I was talking about. The corset actually indents in, you can't really tell, but here's my hip bone sticking out. There's the other side. The center front of the MCC-19 corset is 11 3/4 inches. The side is 9 1/4 inches, and the center back is 13 1/2 inches. The corset is 20 inches at the waist, and it's a very curvy hourglass shape. This is the off-the-rack size, where the underbust measurement is 20 inches. The waist is 20, and the lower hip is about 32 inches. The cost of this corset is $79. You can only buy Mystic City corsets on eBay right now. The MCC-19 is no longer being made. I asked Sylwia on Facebook why she's no longer making this corset, and it's because she is trying to update her patterns and improve the corsets. So the style that I see on eBay currently that is closest to this design, I think, is the MCC-38. It has the same measurements for the underbust, waist, and hip. It's close to the front measurement. The back measurement, however, is this on the other corset is the same as the front. It is not as long. This is a 6-panel pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 2 layers. Both are black cotton twill. I wanted to point out, if this will show up on the camera, that there are, I don't think you'll see it, some rub marks, oh, you can see right there, of the metal coming through the fabric. It's on the busk as well as on the back where the grommets are. There, you can see that line there, that's from the metal rubbing. So I don't think, it feels thin, it feels like 2 layers of fabric, so I believe an interlining might have helped to prevent some of this rubbing through. There is a waist tape. You can see it right there. It's hidden inside, sandwiched. The busk is a 5-pin busk. The bottom is a little closer together. It is not too flexible, very sturdy. It's also 1/2 inch wide, and there is an unstiffened Modesty panel here. There are 18 spiral steels. That's 9 on each side. Sylwia says that they are 7mm wide spiral steels, but the newer corsets are 5mm. It's double boned right here on the seams, and each second boning channel, by the way, this is sandwiched, so you can see it on both sides. Each second channel is top stitched instead of stitching in the ditch. To me, the bones actually feel like flat bones. They don't feel like spiral. And I've heard rumors on Facebook recently that some people were taking the bones out of their corsets and found that they had different quality issues. So I'm actually going to do that at the end of this video to see what they're like in this corset, and then I'll just put the binding back on and reuse the corset. Also, I noticed that some of the stitching on this is a little bit wobbly. Around the back, some of the stitching doesn't go right up to the bone. can't see it because it's so black, but just trust me, some of the stitching is wobbly and it leaves a little bit wiggle room for the channels. Okay, so the lacing bone. It's 1 inch wide, and if you know what a lacing bone is, it's just a big piece of steel with a bunch of holes cut out, and instead of sandwiching grommets between 2 bones, it's just one big one, and it's not too flexible. The grommets are silver 2-part grommets. There's 32 of them total, and there's a few splits. Around the lacing bone is just a single layer of fabric. So on the last panel is just 1 layer, and it's folded over and stitched. So it's thinner, and certain grommets have appeared to cut through the fabric, and you can actually see underneath a few of them the metal underneath, and it's not plastic dipped or anything. It's just straight up shiny silver metal, so it could rust technically, and I believe it should be more layers thick than 1, obviously, because it cut right through the fabric just putting the grommets in there. So there's some splits. There's no catching, however. The laces are the usual flat black nylon, slightly stretchy. They were very, very, very long. I did a different video, which I'll link in the bottom, about how much laces actually cut off from this corset. I did a tutorial on how to shorten them, and they're still very long because look how many freaking grommets are in this thing, and they're so close together. So I took off more than 3 yards worth of laces, extra laces. The binding is a different texture. It's actually hard to see in this video, but it is kind of a shiny nylon ribbon. It's ribbed. It's like ridges on it, and it doesn't really go with the corset that well. It's also kind of cheaply, it kind of looks cheap, and it frays, and it's not really put on that well. It's just folded over. You can see the rough edges. There are 6 garter tabs total. They stick out from the bottom because of the way that they're made. Instead of facing them up, and they're just facing down. So I really don't like that, how they're sticking out, but I'm going to take care of that when I take out the bones, and I'll take off these garter tabs too. The Modesty panel is floating. It has, it's actually boned. It has 5 bones. I think they are flat, and I'll check on that too. 2 of them are horizontal at the top and the bottom between the grommets, and on the other side is 3 vertical bones. So 1, 2, 3. This one feels wider in the middle. The corset can be custom made to your measurements, and it's very comfy for an off-the-rack corset. It's very curvy for an off-the-rack corset. I already complained about the laces. I find it very hard to tighten and loosen the corset, and that's partially because there's so much friction going on between the number of grommets, so therefore the number of X's in the corset, and the amount of, or the type of fabric. This fabric is very grippy. It's it picks up every little white fuzzy on the planet. It's picking up threads. Just doing this review in my sewing room, it's like impossible to get off things on this corset. So I'm not as big of a fan about cotton anymore. I think I'd go with one of her satin corsets instead. That's just a quality of cotton, like black cotton. So I already addressed the wrinkles in the front, and I believe it has partially to do with the patterning, partially to do with right here is where bias would be of the fabric. So it creates a little stretch. It goes right over the hips, and it like sinks into my skin to create the shape. So it just wrinkles up like crazy on both sides of the front hip here. Doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing to me. Also, the underbust seems to gape at the top. And I believe once again as part of the patterning, it should be the correct size for my underbust. My underbust was the same. All my measurements were the same. as this corset, so it should be able to close easily in the back. But because the back is so high on this corset, I think that's what caused a little bit of the problem. Like, it's flaring up and out. So the measurement, the underbust measurement, is down here, where the top here continues to get bigger. And I think that's what the problem was with that. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking off the binding and show you what kind of bones are in here.